What is going on, guys? It is DerekJ Speaks back to you once again to close out this very long WrestleMania week to bring you my review of Friday Night SmackDown live in Detroit, Michigan on April 12th, 2024, the post WrestleMania 40 edition of SmackDown. What I felt was a much stronger post WrestleMania show compared to Monday Night Raw this past week. Still not the strongest, but it was an overall enjoyable show. For me, highlighted by the Bloodline segment, which is very typical for episodes of SmackDown, where the best thing on the entire show involves the Bloodline. But this time, it was a noteworthy Bloodline segment that did not involve Roman Reigns and did not involve The Rock. It was focused solely on Solo Sikoa. Now, Solo Sikoa had a little bit of a story for himself at different points of the show. In fact, you could kind of tell the direction that they were going in with him earlier in the night, because the show opened up with a Cody Rhodes promo. And I'm not going to get too deep into Cody's promo because there was no great substance to it. He acknowledged his interactions with The Rock this past week on Monday Night Raw, and he was hyping up the different men who were going to compete in triple threat matches on this show to determine his next challenger for the undisputed WWE Championship. Also noteworthy that they seem to be phasing out the Universal name for the championship. They exclusively all night were calling it the WWE Championship or the undisputed WWE Championship, but I don't recall ever hearing Universal stated. But that was mainly Cody's promo. And then a little bit, not too long after his promo, they cut backstage and they show Paul Heyman rolling into the show with Solo Sikoa and Jimmy Uso. And when they came up on what was once the Bloodline locker room, the typically biggest locker room in the backstage area, it instead showed that it belonged to Cody Rhodes. Even Kevin Owens kind of walked past them and went in and told them to find a broom closet somewhere. And Solo, of course, like usual, ready to fight, ready to throw down with someone, but he was told by Paul Heyman that there are consequences to losing, and talked about how winning and losing matters and how you have to be held accountable for your actions, basically. And told Solo that there will come a time again when the championship is back with the Bloodline, but that will be given under the orders of the tribal chief. So later in the night, we had a segment with Paul Heyman out there with Jimmy and Solo, and Heyman's on not commentary, but he's in the ring, he's on mic, and he is acknowledging what happened. He acknowledged the comparison between what happened at WrestleMania 39 last year and the difference to this year with WrestleMania 40, and how Roman Reigns dropped the ball because he was obsessed with getting revenge on Seth Rollins. Of course, that was a big story point that a lot of us pointed out, so this was just them confirming that. I don't know if this is teasing a Roman Reigns Seth Rollins match in the future. I've seen a few people on Twitter kind of push for this match to happen at SummerSlam. I guess it's possible. There clearly still is unfinished business between the two, considering the fact that Roman Reigns blasting Seth Rollins in the back with a steel chair at WrestleMania did indirectly lead to him losing his title to Cody. So maybe there is some juice left in the match between the two of them later on this year. We'll see. It looks like Roman will be preoccupied with some other internal business within the Bloodline, but I digress. Paul Heyman was giving Cody his flowers here, and Solo Sikoa basically stopped Paul Heyman from talking for a second. He stepped in, he interjected, and he wanted some reassurance in what Paul Heyman not only was saying on the microphone in the arena here, but also what he was saying earlier. He was confirming that losing has consequences, and also the fact that losing means there should be some changes made. And as he's saying this, you hear the fans kind of rumbling in the background, and Solo kind of pushes Paul Heyman out of the way, and he directs his attention towards Jimmy Uso. Of course, Roman wasn't the only member of the Bloodline to lose at WrestleMania this year. Jimmy lost on night one to Jey Uso. So Solo is looking towards Jimmy. Jimmy's freaking out. He's trying to get Solo to back off. But instead, Solo comes in and gives Jimmy a hug. He embraces him. He tells Jimmy that he loves him. I love you, is what he says to his older brother. And then he pulls back, and you think, is he about to hit him with the Samoan spike? But no. Instead, Jimmy is jumped from behind by a guy in a hoodie. And once he takes off the hoodie, it is revealed to be Tama Tonga from New Japan Pro Wrestling. He signed with WWE a few months ago, I believe. I know it was reported this week that he had been signed with the company, but I'm pretty sure he had already signed with them a while ago because he was a free agent coming out of Wrestle Kingdom this year. Of course, Tama Tonga, a former half of the Gorillas of Destiny, very popular tag team in New Japan, multiple-time IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team Champions, and a longtime member of the Bullet Club faction. In fact, I believe he was a part of the original incarnation of the Bullet Club with Finn Balor, of course, Prince Devitt at the time, and I think Bad Luck Fale, I think those guys were some of the founding members of the Bullet Club. So crazy to think about that. All these years later, you see what that faction is today, if that faction does even still exist. But nevertheless, he is also the son of Haku, who is not formally a member of the Anoa'i family, but consider him, and by virtue Tama, basically really close friends of the family to the point where they are cousins. I've had many friends in my life who are not related to me by blood, but they are basically family. Like, my family has been very close with them and their family to the point where I would consider them either a brother or sister or cousin to that degree. So consider Tama Tonga that. He is not literal blood in the bloodline, but he's close enough to be a part of this here. Now, I did think that we were going to see Tama Tonga on the show tonight. I also thought we might get a Jacob Fatu appearance because he is also a free agent, and there is reports going around that he also has signed with WWE, but maybe we won't see him just yet. Maybe they want to highlight Tama Tonga for now. But Tama attacks Jimmy here. He joins Solo in beating him down. Solo blasts Jimmy Uso with the Samoan spike, and he's bashing the back of his head into the mat. All the while, Paul Heyman is backed up into the corner, screaming and looking so terrified. And then eventually Solo and Tama come over to Paul Heyman. And again, Heyman, he's perfect. He is perfect in his role. His facial expressions, his reactions, his actions, all of it is just absolutely perfect. And Paul Heyman did a fantastic job of selling this. The actual shock of the beatdown and everything was there, and the debut of Tama Tonga and all that was there. Even the fans popped for it because when he took off the hoodie, the fans popped for Tama Tonga, even chanted "holy shit," which of course Fox censored. But Heyman's expressions really sold this because Heyman came out and he had his phone with him, and we've seen this countless times over the past few months where he talks into his phone to call Roman Reigns. And so he was going to do that, but then Solo rips the phone out of his hands, throws it down on the mat, and just starts stomping on it. Basically, an extremely defiant move from Solo Sikoa. And he goes out of the ring, gets a steel chair, props up Jimmy seated into the corner, puts the chair in front of his face, and does the running hip attack onto Jimmy with the chair bashed into his face. And then everyone leaves. Solo leaves, Tama right along with him, and Paul Heyman sheepishly walking behind them, petrified. Later on in the night, Kayla Braxton outside the trainer's room waiting to get a word from Paul Heyman, who went in there to check on Jimmy. He comes out, he's shell-shocked, and then Tama Tonga appears, gets right in Heyman's face. Again, he is just scared out of his mind here. And Tama tells Heyman that this was done by orders of the tribal chief. And as he backs away, Solo comes in. He's looking down at his thumb, his spiking thumb. He gives a quick smirk, and then he and Tama walk off together. And Paul Heyman is confused. He's asking, what does that even mean? And we're left to think the same thing. What does that mean? I don't know. Does this mean Solo Sikoa, in the wake of Roman Reigns' loss at WrestleMania and now his probably very long extended absence from WWE television, does this mean Solo Sikoa is stepping up as the new tribal chief? I don't think so. They could go that route, but I don't think so. I do think eventually Roman Reigns will return. He will confront Solo Sikoa. We might even get a match between the two. But what I'm thinking here is that Tama Tonga, when he says that this was done by the orders of the tribal chief, I don't think he's lying. We may be led to think he's lying because Roman Reigns did not give those orders. To our knowledge, Roman Reigns did not say that. But Roman Reigns may not be the tribal chief anymore. We all think he is because he's the only tribal chief we've known. But he lost the championship at WrestleMania. Could him losing mean that there is a brand new tribal chief? And could Solo Sikoa and Tama Tonga know something that the rest of us, including Paul Heyman, do not know? Which is that due to Roman Reigns losing at WrestleMania, the status of tribal chief has been transferred over to The Rock. Now, we saw The Rock on TV this week. He was on Raw on Monday, confronted Cody Rhodes. That championship match, if they want to go that route, is set up perfectly for SummerSlam. I heard some report that Rock prefers that match be in the main event of WrestleMania next year. It's not going to be at WrestleMania next year. WrestleMania next year will be The Rock versus Roman Reigns. It's not happening. So Cody and Rock could happen at SummerSlam though. But Rock still has a whole story left untold between himself and Roman Reigns. And this could very well set that up. We could have Roman Reigns come back. We could have him confront Solo Sikoa, talking about what the hell are you doing here? Saying that I approved all this. I did not do this. As a tribal chief, I did not approve any of this. Only for The Rock to eventually swoop in and saying, you're no longer the tribal chief. I am. And then Roman Reigns is officially kicked out of the Bloodline. And The Rock simply placed Solo Sikoa in charge in his absence. But Solo and Tama answered to a brand new tribal chief, that being The Rock. And that sets the gears in motion for a Rock-Roman Reigns match at WrestleMania. More importantly, it keeps Rock as the Hollywood heel character because his role as the heel and final boss stuff is just too damn good to let it go. But it also sets up a big babyface turn for Roman Reigns down the line. Now, this could open up a whole brand new line of possibilities. Jimmy Uso got attacked here. I'm sure they might be setting up for a Jimmy Uso Solo Sikoa match, probably at Backlash. Could Jey Uso get involved? Because even though Jey did beat Jimmy at WrestleMania, that is still his brother, and he showed in that match that he does still care about his brother to some degree. So could he eventually come to the aid of Jimmy? Jey Uso is the current number one contender for the World Heavyweight Championship. Could, when the time comes that he gets that shot, again, presumably at Backlash, when he gets that shot at the World Heavyweight Championship against Damian Priest, he gets screwed out of the championship. This time, instead of it being by Jimmy, it's now by Solo and Tama. And then that sets the gears in motion for a reunion of the Usos to take on Solo Sikoa and Tama Tonga. It's all wild speculation. We have nothing to really go off of right now. Only the fact that as of right now, the only representation of the Bloodline on TV, probably going forward, is going to be Solo Sikoa, now paired up with Tama Tonga. And good for Solo Sikoa. He showed more personality on this single show than he has in his entire main roster run. We even saw the fucker smile. When's the last time you've ever seen Solo Sikoa smile? That's way more than he's ever done on the main roster. This was almost akin to his run in NXT before he even joined the Bloodline, where he was the big tough guy, but he had a little bit more personality. He was a little more dynamic in his delivery and his presentation and his character. And I would love to get back to that. He's been the very stoic, straight-faced, brute enforcer of the Bloodline for over a year and a half now. And it's time to evolve from that. Now that Roman Reigns has lost the championship, this is what I've been talking about this entire time. Excuse me. I'm getting choked up here because I'm so emotional about this, clearly. But this is what I've been talking about for the longest time. There is so many more possibilities to go down with the Bloodline now that Roman Reigns has lost his championship. It opens up the floodgates to go in so many different directions with different people, adding new members. Already added Tama Tonga. Jacob Fatu is out there. That could be a possibility. They could reunite the Usos. They could reunite the Usos with Roman Reigns and try to rebuild that connection with the three of them down the line. Again, Roman gets kicked out. He loses his tribal chief status. He has to go up against heel Rock to regain it back or whatever. There's so many different directions you can go in with this story, and it's fun. It's exciting. On this particular night, on this particular show, it's exciting. For all I know, 4 or 6 months from now, this could all be complete bullshit and they jump the shark again with this storyline. It's very possible, but at least coming out of this show on this night, it is pretty exciting. And to me, that was the most notable thing on the show, although there were other things that did happen, including we know the direction we're going in terms of setting up the first challenger for Cody Rhodes and the WWE Championship. We had 2 triple threat matches on this show. One that opened the show, or at least was the first match of the show, and one that closed it. The opening match was Bobby Lashley, Santos Escobar, and LA Knight. And due to shenanigans with Legado del Fantasma and the Street Profits, it ended up with LA Knight getting the win. And in the main event, we had Kevin Owens, Rey Mysterio, and AJ Styles. All 3 men had a chance to cut a promo heading into the match, and they had a very good match. It was the stronger of the 2 triple threats, in my opinion, and had a much cooler finish, with AJ Styles hitting Rey Mysterio with the Styles Clash off of either the top rope or the middle rope. I think it was the middle rope. He hit it on Rey, coming off the middle rope, crashing down onto Kevin Owens, and he pinned Rey to get the 1-2-3. And this sets up an LA Knight AJ Styles WrestleMania rematch for SmackDown next week. But more importantly, it sets up a scenario where the winner of that match will become the new #1 contender for Cody's WWE Championship. And even though they didn't officially announce it here, Cody did imply in his promo at the beginning of the show that he would be at Backlash in France in 3 or 4 weeks from now. So it's safe to assume that the winner of this match will be facing Cody in the main event of that Backlash show. Early prediction between the two, I'm thinking we're going to see AJ Styles get his win back over LA Knight and earn a shot at Cody for the championship. I'm thinking AJ, phenomenal, no, well, pun intended, in-ring competitor even nowadays, and is an easy heel to pair up with Cody Rhodes for Cody to have someone to beat right out the gate. That's why it's smart to have Jey Uso go up against Damian Priest. Jey Uso, very popular babyface, super over with the crowd, and an easy opponent for Damian Priest to beat to defend his championship against, get heat since they want him to still be in the heel. Almost basically the inverse for Cody Rhodes here. He's the top babyface. He's the brand new champion. You want to make him look dominant. Put him in there with an experienced, seasoned veteran like AJ Styles, who the fans respect for his in-ring ability and his status as a legend to one degree or another. So I think they could have a kick-ass match at Backlash. LA Knight, of course, it's always possible he can win. I don't see that happening. Could there be a fuck finish where it leads to a triple threat match? That could be exciting. It's a way to get LA Knight into the main event again, but it's also a way to get LA Knight into a main event world championship match that he'll lose. He already lost to Roman Reigns. He lost the Fatal 4-Way at the Royal Rumble. And he lost the Elimination Chamber match to decide a number one contender for the World Heavyweight Championship. So that's 3 opportunities at a world title that LA Knight has already lost. So I would hate to see him in a position to lose again, even if he doesn't eat the pinfall. Now, of course, this would mean AJ loses again, but AJ can recover from these losses a little bit easier than LA Knight can, at least in my opinion. Although LA Knight is still super over, still, I think between the options, a straight up AJ Styles win, although I'm sure he'll cheat to some degree, but doing Cody AJ, getting a few promos out of it for a few weeks and then building up to a match at Backlash, that sounds the most intriguing to me. Although a triple threat match could be kind of good. Elsewhere on the show, we had some interaction with the women. We had Bayley coming out to a huge ovation to address the public for the first time as the brand new WWE Women's Champion. Thanked the fans and all that. And she was about to lay out a challenge to someone, to give an opportunity to someone. And before she had a chance to finish her thought, she was interrupted by Tiffany Stratton, who in her own right got a pretty good reaction. And she thought she was laying out an open challenge and she was here to accept. But of course, Bayley cut her off and clarified that that's not what this was. Instead, she already had someone in mind, that being Naomi. Now, this makes sense because Naomi was one of the only people who came out to help Bayley against Damage Control when she was overwhelmed. Of course, that caused a little bit of friction between Naomi and Bianca Belair for about a week or two. But because Naomi was there for Bayley in her time of need, it only makes sense that Bayley, coming out of WrestleMania, winning the championship, would want to give back to Naomi. Now, Naomi declined the challenge because she first wanted to prove herself and beat Tiffany Stratton, because Tiffany pointed out in her promo tonight that she has already beaten Naomi. And so the two of them had a match. Pretty good, nothing overly special, but Naomi did get the win. She got a jackknife cover to get the win, and it's already set up. Naomi versus Bayley for the championship on SmackDown next week. So that should be a pretty good match, and good for Naomi. Naomi returned at the Rumble, got a huge ovation from the crowd. She hasn't done a whole lot since then, but they have reintroduced her in a pretty good way, and they positioned her in a strong way heading into WrestleMania and at WrestleMania. They put over how dominant of a force her, Bianca, and Jade Cargill were at WrestleMania, so it's good to see some shine placed on Naomi, and it should be a pretty good match between her and Bayley, provided that match also does not have some kind of strange, odd kind of non-finish to it. But speaking of Jade and Bianca, we all saw this past Monday night on Raw. Jade came out, squashed Chelsea Green, I should say. So this night, Chelsea Green, she came out with her tag team partner, Piper Niven. They were promised a match by Nick Aldis, and they got opponents in the form of Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair. You can probably guess how this ended. Sets up a big opportunity for Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair. They won here. Looked strong. The fans were into them as a duo. The match didn't go on that long. Bianca kind of took a bit of the action, and then she made the hot tag to Jade, who came in, cleaned house real quick, and laid out Chelsea Green with the Jaded. So basically the exact same thing that happened on Raw, except this time Bianca and Piper Niven were involved. So not a whole lot of dynamic action from Jade Cargill herself. Looks like they're going to continue protecting her a little bit longer by pairing her up with Bianca Belair. But going into and coming out of WrestleMania, this is what I said would be a smart thing to do with her. So it's good to see they're going in that direction. No doubt in my mind they will get a hold of those tag team titles at some point in the very near future. We had a Braun Breaker squash match of Cameron Grimes. We had a couple of out of the arena promos. We had a vignette with A-Town Down Under, the new SmackDown Tag Team Champions. It's going to be a fatal 4-way tag team match on SmackDown next week to determine the brand new number one contenders for those titles. It'll be New Catch Republic, Street Profits, AOP, and Legado del Fantasma competing in that match. And we had a promo from Logan Paul just hyping up himself for beating Kevin Owens and Randy Orton at WrestleMania. No real inclination as to what's next for him and his U.S. title. I assume he's not going to be at Backlash, so we'll see what plays out with him. And they, of course, made the announcements for SmackDown next week, and they also made some announcements for Raw. We already knew that this upcoming Monday night we were going to get Sami Zayn defending the Intercontinental Championship against Chad Gable, but they also announced on this show that Sheamus will be making his return on Raw. Now, they aired the vignette for Sheamus hyping his return this past week, but there was no date given as to when he would come back. Tonight, they announced it. So this Monday night on Raw, we're getting an Intercontinental Championship match, and we're getting the return of Sheamus. Could it be a coincidence that those two things are happening on the same show? Or could one tie into the other? Could Sheamus and his return have some impact on the outcome of that Intercontinental Championship match? We shall see. May or may not even be talking about Monday Night Raw this upcoming week. I know I don't usually do reviews for the weekly shows on a regular basis, but who knows? Maybe if I'm feeling lucky and I'm feeling up to it, I might give my thoughts on Raw this upcoming week. But that is about it as far as SmackDown's concerned. Overall, top to bottom, pretty good show. Better than Raw this past week. Not by a whole lot, but still a very strong episode of SmackDown. Like I said, keep on watch for a Raw review this Monday. And that's about it. That covers this WrestleMania coverage. Thank you guys for sticking around with me through WrestleMania predictions, nights 1 and 2 reviews, Raw, and now SmackDown. Conveniently skipped over that bullshit that we had on AEW Dynamite this past week. Don't want to talk about that. If you want to know my thoughts on that, then head on over to X/Twitter, follow me at DerekJ Speaks, and you will see what I had to think about that. It's not worth talking about here. It was stupid, and that's all there is to say about it. But yes, follow me on there at DerekJ Speaks. And if you like what you see and hear on this channel, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and comment down below what your thoughts were coming out of this show and what you think about this whole Bloodline stuff. So until next time, thank you guys again. Love you guys. Take care.